Frank Watson here with Tom Probasco. Tom always has something to say. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing all right, Frank. How about you?
Well, I'm doing good. I uh, mentioned just now on the phone that I've been doing some reading. Well, I said I think what I said was I'm in a different place, and
Yeah.
uh, I've been doing some reading that really you wouldn't think it would be especially good reading for the Christmas season.
Oh,
It's a book called On Killing.
we talked about that, and I was reading it back. This is months ago.
Yes, and
I know.
it's I posted a link to the Wikipedia article on my Facebook page, and I intend to elaborate on it there, uh, and we can discuss it as much as you want to, whatever. Uh, I don't want to take away whatever you've got planned, but
Oh,
uh,
I can use what I have now or later. So, you know,
well, this is a this book is a pretty big deal for me because it helps me understand my father and my childhood,
yeah,
uh, and uh, and a whole lot more. Uh, I uh, I posted a link to the article in Wikipedia,
yeah,
which I Wikipedia is trying to raise money right now. I sent them um, the minimal amount because really that's all I can afford. I
yeah,
don't charge anything for what I do,
yeah,
and I have my limitations in terms of donating here and there. I
yeah,
try to do my part, but my father was a World War II veteran. He was first in the Philippines, where he was injured. Uh, he was running along a rice paddy on the side of a mountain, and someone was shooting at him, and he slipped and fell, injured his neck. They brought him home on morphine and managed to get him recovered sufficiently to send him back where he ended up in Korea before it was formally declared a police action. Um, so he saw some significant combat, and like a lot of people who did, he didn't talk much about it, and what he did was very grudgingly, and I managed to find out after he had had a stroke, he opened up. He talked a little bit about it, and in the Philippines, he had been part of the Seventh Army, sightseeing Seventh Division, and they were doing what he described as mop up. Well, that doesn't sound as just taking care of the small stuff, except what mop up means is that they were uh, going after gun emplacements and machine guns at critical points that had to be taken out. And what they would do is uh, they would send someone out at night to set flares on either side of the gun emplacement, which they would be dug into a mountain or some place that was hard to hard to hit. And they would set these with timers. They would set the flares on either side of that with timers so that in the morning the timers would go off and the pilots would come in and they would bomb the emplacements with napalm. Uh, so the difficult part there was to set the flares. You had to first remove the sentries, or sentry. They would have.
And we're in North Korea now.
That was this was in the Philippines.
Okay, in the Philippines. Okay.
So, Dad had the experience of doing that at least one time that he told me about, where he garroted a sentry with piano wire and two sticks holding the piano wire. And this was after he had had a stroke, and he couldn't speak very well, so he acted out the sentry's death. And he went through the sentry's pockets after he had killed him, and they did that so they could find anything to give information.
Yeah.
He said there was a picture uh, of a young girl that was obviously his girlfriend or wife, and he realized that this was just a boy, just like he was.
Yeah.
And so I'd always kind of, okay, that was terrible, but I never really it really didn't sink in on me just how terrible it was.
No.
I've killed animals, uh, and a couple of times I've come close to killing people,
Hmm.
but I've never done it.
Yeah.
And he had, and on more than one occasion. Some of the occasions he described a patrol that he went on that ambushed a Japanese patrol. They and it was one of the there were two officers he went out with, or uh, people who were senior to him at any rate, and they had odd names, and I always was kind of skeptical about that. It sounded like something made up, but one of the people's name was Stufflebean, and I was listening to news report on I believe it was the Gulf War, and they had a report from an admiral who was named Stufflebean, and probably probably old enough to be the son of the
Man.
man that Dad was with.
Yeah.
So he described, how they uh, uh, the three of them took up positions. One of them, told them what to do or signed them what to do.
Yeah.
Gave them positions, and then indicated when he threw his hat in the air that they would start firing. And they did that. And I said, uh, so, so, you killed some people there. He said, oh, we couldn't tell. And what I found out by reading the book is that that's one of the ways that, that soldiers avoid that guilt that comes with killing.
Yeah.
The other instance where he knew what he had done. He was later on in Korea.
Came
Uh,
out to
he,
Korea.
he was
Okay.
he was driving a Jeep. He was he had run moonshine on southern Indiana roads, so he was a pretty good driver. And he was driving officers here and there. Uh, and one of the things they had to deal with was that the communists would either barricade the road or uh, try to get a vehicle to stop, and then once they were stopped, they would ambush, and they would have them, and so he was driving, and he had one uh, jump out and try to stop him. He swerved to get around rather than hit the person, but he came close enough and he had a tire iron. Uh, uh, and for anybody that doesn't know, it's a tire iron is like a long piece of steel that you use to take a tire uh, off to change it. And when he went past the guy, he swung that tire iron and got him in the head. And so he pretty well knew what he had done there.
Couldn't avoid, yeah, just like the garrote.
So
Yeah, you can't. It's hard to put a shield between yourself and that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So um, the effect on him was, yeah, and was there was a psychological effect,
yeah,
and he was troubled for his whole life.
yeah.
And it's for someone that doesn't know what the statistics are, you might and I was inclined to kind of think, well, you know, he had a rough childhood, yada yada yada, uh, and somehow he just didn't have the inner fortitude to get over that. The actual people who kill somebody in battle, especially the closer the range, the more the psychological impact.
You
And
can't pretend that that maybe it didn't happen.
right, and the book goes into great detail, such things as uh, uh, a very small percentage of people who go into battle, unless they're especially trained, uh, and research is making our armies better at killing. But
What I remember.
yeah, um, but
Because the tendency is, it's, as I recall, and you can verify this, is the tendency is to avoid killing, unless, occasionally they'd get some sociopathic person who, but for the average person, the tendency was to avoid it,
yes,
shoot in the air or something. But then, as you just said, they got better as wars went on, as they do,
yes,
to get a higher kill rate. I
yes,
mean, that's when you read these things, I see why. I read it some months ago,
yeah.
and it was this man. But anyway, go on there.
Well, it made him it. I don't know how to say it. It pretty well influenced his whole life and certainly influenced mine because
Yes.
he had a hair trigger temper, and when he went off, he was violent, and I lived with that violence and the threat of the violence. So did my sisters, and uh, and he was a, wonderful woodsman, and he loved his hunting skills
Yeah.
were just great. So much so that there was one time he walked up into the yard of our home where we were living in the country, and he had caught a half-grown squirrel in his bare hands. He had snuck up on it and caught it and was had it by the back of the neck, and it had only bit him one time. And
Wow.
yeah, he managed to get it into a cage and shut the cage. Uh, but the squirrel was not suited to cage life and died. Uh, but um, but anyhow, I'm coming to a new understanding of not only my father but a whole lot of other people. And you know, the the VA has been very helpful to me. I spent 4 years in the Air Force. I joined the Air Force rather than get drafted into the Army, which I
Yeah.
think was a good move for me.
Yeah.
It was 2 more years, and I passed on the opportunity to go to Vietnam and earn a promotion.
Yeah.
Uh, and uh,
Good.
yeah, um, but uh, no matter how good the VA is in dealing with the veteran, uh, the experience of the veteran impacts the veteran's family,
Yeah.
and there's no real attention given to that. My entire life has been shaped by living with a killer who
Yeah.
was grieving what he had done, and who finally come to some resolution through his Christian faith. So anyhow, I'm what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to post this video um, in the comments on the article that or the post that I made.
Oh, okay.
What
Yeah.
I'm doing is I'm uh, I'll post a paragraph or maybe several, and then leave it open for comments and interaction, so that
Yeah.
the writing becomes interactive. Facebook is a wonderful opportunity to do writing and then interact with people who have comments or questions or um, that sort of thing. It changes. I like to write. I like to communicate that way,
Yeah.
partly because it gives me time to think as I do it,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
can edit. I can go back and edit.
Right.
I'm a person, I need editing.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's what I'm uh, reading here during the Christmas season, and it's unsettling,
Yes.
but it's giving me some closure. At 81 years old, I'm getting closure on my father's life and my childhood, and to some extent my whole life. So I'm it's a good thing, and I also want to mention Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Wikipedia is where I go for information a lot. I donate to it, and I encourage others protect uh, protect Wikipedia. It doesn't have a corporate sponsor,
Yeah.
and it's a source of information that I think is very valuable.
It's gotten better since it was first started.
It has.
And it does lean toward, certain topics more than others, but um, they do monitor in terms of uh, like if you see a subject, something you're looking at, and if you note the footnotes where they have to do that, otherwise they'll say this lacks verification. That's not the word they use, but that's what it amounts to. It lacks, so um, it's gotten a lot better. Initially, librarians avoided it,
Yeah.
but that then eventually, it was recognized as having gotten a lot better. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
I,
but
it,
yeah,
it was born in the age when PC use was fairly new,
and it was yeah
and
things were ratchet up on the internet.
the
Yeah,
internet was a land that was hopeful.
yeah.
So with all that, it's time for you to say what you got to say.
Well, I want to just ask real quick. So your dad was the Second World War, but he did
Right.
wind up in North Korea for a time.
He wound up in Korea. I don't know where in Korea.
Yeah,
I,
but he was there. And so his period of time, so now I'm thinking Pat Webb,
yes,
and he was one of the, is this the right term? One of the frozen chosen or chosen, so he,
Pat. Yeah,
uh, as he says, shot his way out of that, and a lot of people didn't make it. So there was a horrific experience that I've only recently learned um, of how it affected him and his son's life. Like every time I visit Chris, I find out, I wouldn't say every time, but this last time or the time before last, I learned something else I didn't know. Um, and then Chris, himself has been in situations, uh, traumatic, just very traumatic.
absolutely.
Uh, so So I put together a few things. We get to it, fine. If not, it'll be there next week. Um, Let me put this over here. If I need to ask you something later, um, I kind of want to finish up or come close to finishing up. Something to say. Number one, um, let me. Here's here's one. I like most of the poems in this. Number one were written years ago, and as I read them, uh, I'm remembering what I was thinking at the time. This one is called Just to Think of That Feeling. I remember wanting every single part of everything to know that I loved it. All of my small world and all I'd never seen before. Now I do well just to think of that feeling, now that I've seen somewhat more. And that comes from my own, young life, and then later, still young, but having seen more.
Yes.
Um, the other one I'll do today, let's see here, make sure. And this is another one from my time on the near South Side. I still married to my first wife. Daughter Sarah was an infant. In fact, this is the first one that did get published in a Writer's Center publication, in print, I think is what it was called. But anyway, the title is Household. Very short, just like the other one. In the evening, an hour before retiring, you find that missing part we were looking for earlier. A small plastic disc with holes in it that belongs to the baby's infant feeder. Good, I say. Our household is all back together again. Uh, Next one is from a bit later, a little longer. Um, I talked to you some years ago about it. Said, I don't even know if I'm keeping it. And you said, yeah, go ahead and keep it. It's called I'll Be Glad. I'll be glad when I'm older. I'll be glad when I go to school. I'll be glad when I can drive. I'll be glad when I'm done with school. I'll be glad when it's spring. I'll be glad when it's summer. I'll be glad when it's not so hot, yeah, when it's not so hot and I've got the house all ready for winter. I'll be glad when we find a place to live that we like better than here. I'll be glad when you and I have decided what to do about our problems. I'll be glad when I have more time alone. I'll be glad when I get a vacation. I'll be glad when I find another job. I'll be glad when there's no more threat of nuclear war. I'll be glad. I'll be glad when tomorrow. I'll be glad when tomorrow. I'll be glad when tomorrow. I'll be glad. I'll be glad. From years ago, years and years ago.
Very, very. I
Uh,
that last one really says a lot to me. I'll be glad.
yeah. When tomorrow.
Yeah.
Uh, This next one is again from the Pat Webb chat books that we've discussed and I read from. This one is Wild Stallion. I think I read from the other one, but I've got several in here that over time here I will include. Uh, this one, in a way, when I talk about another thing that I've got here and somebody I talked to, it has elements of that, but you'll see how that works, I hope. This is Pat Webb, Old Trumpet Man. Saturday late afternoon, the joint is full. The old men in the rhythm section eye him as he calls the time and stomps it off. The old men jump in like a pack of hounds. They'll follow him through anything. They trust him. He takes wild courses, made up as he goes, but always musical. He hits the highs perfect, loud, clear. No compromiser. He plays only what he feels. Well, that describes Pat. Describes you for that matter. Only what he owns. Only what he paid for. The war with the booze and the dope. A truce, if not a win. The battles with his women, mostly over now. He plays the message at the center of the song, what the old timers call the truth. He sings the blues hard in the old way. Hey, baby, can I go home with you? Hey, baby, can I go home with you? If you want to do, I'm the man for you. For the last time of the afternoon set, he calls. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. He walks to the open door and points the horn to the sky. He hooks into the sacred fire and blows with a high winging drive. A half mile down the street, two old couples look up from their card game and cock their ears. That's him, Jack. Sure is. Nobody else sound like that. That's the man. As they punch this one home, all evening chill walks in the door like a natural man. Sun will go down soon. It will get dark. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. Hey, baby, can I go home with you? Atwell.
Atwell. What a great guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not an easy guy. He
No.
he had the you know he had his truth and that's how he lived.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I've known several people who had come through that particular fire besides my father.
Yeah.
Uh, they live with a certain intensity.
Yeah.
You know, they've got no reason after what they've been through. They don't want to compromise.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they
Yeah. And the things they fear, not the things the average person who hasn't had that experience fear. I've heard some, there was I might have been a documentary that Burns did on Vietnam, but one of them has been through some hellish things there. And he said, he comes home, he said, I'm just not afraid of anything now. So having survived that, um, that was his report, and it was a him. But there are other traumas,
yes,
and so last evening, Aaron Lip, who I think you're connected with on Facebook,
yes,
had some familiarity with you.
yes.
Aaron Lip and David Slates, who we both know and have talked about, came over yesterday evening, late afternoon, evening, end of the evening. And Aaron has written two albums that I've listened to and much appreciated. Um, and he wrote, and this is really nice to have. He wrote a a lyric pamphlet. It's a little hard to get the whole thing in there for this one called. The name of that album is "The Terminally Unique," which we'll talk about here in a minute after I read one of these. And I so much appreciated the format of this pamphlet. I said, "Oh, I said I did some chat books, much formatted the same as this."
Uh-huh.
And I was so glad to see them. I kind of impulsively foisted a set of my chat books on him, which he didn't seem too upset about. But with one of the, so that's what this is. It's a set of lyrics in this last album called "The Terminally Unique." So this is one called "Secrets, Secrets." I better put on. Well, no, I don't think I need this. Put a mint there on your tongue to mask the things you've done, that you use to blur the memories of that time when you were young. Daddy said there was no boogeyman, but you found that wasn't true when his friend spent the night one night and he slipped into your room. This is the chorus. Life ain't easy. Life is hard. Sometimes we never outgrow these scars. Secrets buried deep. Sometimes they bury us if they're not released. Secrets buried deep. Welcome to the sorority of the terminally unique. Well, they say that they don't get it, but we all know life is hard. Sometimes the sleeves we wear are just there to cover up the scars. There are stones there in their hand. They wandered from the pew as they relish the fortuity of throwing their stone at you. Life ain't easy. Life is hard. Sometimes we never outgrow these scars. Secrets buried deep. Sometimes they bury us if they're not released. Secrets buried deep. Welcome to the sorority, the terminally unique. We see you with your mess, and we do not understand that this is you mending your wounds the best way that you can. Life ain't easy. Life is hard. Sometimes we never outgrow these scars. Secrets buried deep. Sometimes they bury us if they're not released. Secrets buried deep. Welcome to the sorority of the terminally unique. So when I heard that on the album CD format, it's in other formats too, but this is what I listened to it on. And so I thought I understood then. Well, I did understand better what the title of the album was, The Terminally Unique. But when Aaron was here, he spoke more about that. Um, Let me find here. I did not know. I don't know if you've heard this, Frank. It's a term um, that is used in the recovery field, and I had never heard it. Find a pair of glasses that actually let me see this. So, um, and he explained it, but then I kind of let me find this. It's one of these recovery pages. Um, uh, so I looked up. I got to do it again. Um, and this, even if you've never heard this term in the recovery thing, it does make sense, even though I've never heard it. Terminal uniqueness is a mindset that some people in recovery from addiction have that makes them feel different from others. It can manifest in a number of ways, such as believing that their experiences are unique and no one else can understand what they're going through, feeling that the circumstances are more difficult than others, and thinking that advice and recovery programs that have helped others won't work for them. Terminal uniqueness can be damaging to recovery and can lead to closed-mindedness and reluctance to enter treatment. It can also increase feelings of isolation and make it difficult to find common ground with others in recovery. So it's just not a term I had run across. And in fact, the situation described in this song was not made up. And the young woman eventually killed herself. So um, that's where he got this title. You know, he worked with somebody. Well, I think actually maybe Aaron's wife had been a social worker. But anyway, at some point, you know, he learned this and it became a song. So I thought that it was a very interesting concept. I mean, an interesting song and album. But then I learned more because you know I have some familiarity with, oh, say AA. Never, but I did attend a couple AA meetings when I was working my way towards sobriety. Uh, the first one I went to, you could still smoke in those days in these meetings, and I came out of there and I was damn near sick.
Yeah.
So all this, and then kind of just, you know, everybody was in there just puffing away. It was like they'd kind of
Smoking
traded one
cigarette.
thing for another one. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, so terminally unique.
Real unique. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm really, I recognize that sense of uniqueness. Uh, and I've managed to get past that and do some recovery work.
yeah,
On the other hand, there is a dark side to recovery and the programs, and that is uh, sometimes people don't understand. As we look at the book on killing, the military itself doesn't understand uh, that for the amount of people with guns they put in the field, only a percentage of the people are fighting with them.
yeah,
Or did not understand. Perhaps I understand now. You know, certain groups, SEAL training, Ranger training, get specialized uh, conditioning to prepare them for killing.
yeah, yeah. They've
Uh,
learned how to make people kill more. when they're in the field.
If you're going to fight, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's my father prepared me to be a killer.
Yeah.
That was part of his goal in raising his son
Yeah.
was to prepare me to be a soldier. And
Did he consciously do that, do you think?
he knew what he was doing. And
And
he,
but he
every
just about went too far. As you told me one time that one of your aunts said, Frank, your dad's name is Frank, you're going to kill that boy. I remember you telling me that.
yeah, he came close.
Yeah.
So and so there are everybody has uh, to do their own work up to a
Yeah.
certain point. If
Right.
you take charge of your recovery and I think sometimes you have to remember that it's your recovery.
Yeah.
Uh, that the person who is attempting to help you has their own life, their own dark side. Sometimes the helper or the rescuer uh, uh, has something that they're getting from you, whatever that might be.
Yeah. In AA, that's the sponsor
Yeah.
is often a recovering, maybe always a recovering alcoholic. And to use the language of AA, there's other modalities that have different terminology or approach it a different way. But hey,
Caroline Mace talks about rescuers, and I I have been a rescuer, and I have been rescued, uh, and I recognize that the truth of what she says to be a good rescuer, say like a lifeguard, when you go out, you see somebody drowning, you go out and you pull them out of the water and you make sure that they're breathing okay. You don't follow them home. When you pull them out, when you have saved them, your job is done. And a person who has just been saved is, been through something traumatic and is vulnerable. So, uh, and that's I think something that some people who are trained to do therapy or counseling get, and some maybe don't.
yeah,
And so it's hard recovering from the the bruises of life. we all have to do this. We all get bruised. We all get knocked about,
yeah,
and we have to reach a point of of taking authority over our own problems, using information, using other people's help without letting the rescuer take us over. I mean, what we're aiming for is to be free of our problems and not create new ones.
yeah,
And only we are capable of doing that. And this is something that is I think that's part of what the spiritual life is about is coming to grips with the infinite, the universe, God, and finding a source of strength that is that kind of gives us guidance in how we heal and and how we avoid further injury.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And that's, I think that's gets to be problematic when if you're in a situation where there uh, are people, you're in an what is the term that's used sometimes, but um, in a family or group of friends that are involved in things that are, let's just say, problematic. It's if you can't get away from that, I mean, it kind of depends on, I mean, there are those who are born into situations that create very little else other than trauma.
Yes.
And if someone escapes from that, it's just damn near miraculous. Others, families solid, structure is solid, uh, but they just almost on a chance run into something and they go down a rabbit hole. But I think more often it's a combination of things. In my own family, I can identify a family member um, that got into a marriage when my mother, she should have done something else and had these regrets that just she took to her grave. And my father and my sister didn't seem to be too, well, my sister later told me, she says, I didn't even know. I always knew very early on. And that caused a lot of my own problems. That took me a while, but eventually I did. I think I can honestly say I did recover from it, healed from it. But, you know, like Aaron says in that song, life is hard.
That song is those lyrics.
Everybody, everybody's fighting a hard fight. Now, it's variable. We're not living in Gaza, where all, and I knew a news reporter was talking about, I think it was either Gaza or Ukraine, probably Gaza. And it says all they have left right now is suffering. And, I sent you that, people live in situations that are hell on earth.
Yep.
I, I sent you that link to that song, Treasures in Heaven. I think that's the name of it. It's a choir song. Lay not up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust doth corrupt, and thieves break through and steal. I think what I said to you was, I said, I don't know. Um, I don't have a perception of heaven and hell being anywhere but just here on earth, created by people. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist anywhere else. It's just my perception. But I've always liked that song. In any case, I've still always liked that song. Seems kind of counterintuitive that I would, but I did. Part of it is it's a pleasant memory from singing in the Xenia Friends Church choir. Oh gosh. But where Amy Bailey happened to be, singing, so that was fun. But yeah, that's it was I think it was a television show of all things, and a character on there said, "Be kind. Everybody you meet is fighting a hard fight." in spite of, what they look like or what they express.
Yeah.
Always remembered that. I at some point thought that that was I tried to look up where that came from, and I failed so far to find what that where it came from. Some things sometimes there'll be a Bible verse, sometimes it'll be something else, but this one can't find where it came from. But it still holds a lot of meaning, I think, for a lot of people. So
Well, Tom, it's almost 11. How far do you want to go today?
I think I've uh, the material that I pulled together in anticipation of this. I've pretty much gone through, so I'll try to find some more for the next time.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation.
That it has, as usual, but yeah, it definitely has been.
And thank you so much.
Okay.
Very thoughtful.
Same to you. Same to you.
All right. Well, we thank Tom Probasco, who has something to say,
And Frank Watson as
who
well.
can't shut up.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye bye.